And now I want to have my own fucking show so that I can share those ideas with everybody along the way. So that's my intention of going with the show. But like I said, I want to get a flow, a workflow.
And that's when you say, welcome to Odd Reality Radio, baby.
Welcome to Odd Reality Radio.
I'm Ty West, and I would like to introduce Joshua Ray. And on today's show, we'll be experiencing life on Mars, all while in the comfort of our backyard. We'll also raise a toast to the premiere of Odd Reality Radio in style with a 100-year-old bottle of beer. Actually, these aren't 100-year-old bottles of beer, are they?
No.
That's probably a damn good thing, dude.
But we do have a great story about one.
Yeah, we do. And finally, we'll wrap up with a trip to a quiet little town in Pennsylvania called Centralia. So, find out what it is that silenced this little town and much more coming up on Odd Reality Radio. There's a group of people that are emulating Mars here in Utah, and they call themselves the Mars Desert Research Station, or the MDRS. And the reason that they're doing it is because apparently, according to these researchers, the atmosphere is similar here in Utah to the atmosphere on Mars. It's hot and windy, red and rocky. And these guys go so far to, just like in the science fiction movies, that every time that they need to leave these specific stations here in Utah, they have to pass through their airlock, which is, it probably adds to their ability to pretend that this is Mars. I don't know how they can actually say or claim that it's similar to the atmosphere. I mean, it might be similar to the way that it looks according to what photographs we have, but...
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. At first, I was just laughing at it. I was like, what the heck are they going to learn from pretending they're on Mars? But I guess, the weathering of the suits that they wear, how often and how it wears out. Like, so if they have to wear one of those suits,
right? So
if they work in it every single day for 9 months
that makes sense.
In those types of conditions, then it actually shows the wear of maybe the elbows wear out and they start to leak and they
That's
whatever.
Weak point.
So that was the only thing that I was like, because at first I thought it was just a stupid, ridiculous endeavor, but then I was like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense if they have to work in these and see how long they'll last on Mars. I mean, you want one that lasts at least a lifetime, I guess, or have a couple of them.
Apparently, the
make them out of hemp.
It will last forever if you do that. But that's common sense, and we don't have much of that anymore. It's more a nation of uncommon sense anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that I found interesting about it is they actually do communicate with mission control, and the thing that I found that they could actually learn and gain value from is the way that they act, I guess, psychologically. I think that would be the most impactful thing, because they're putting them in these little 2-story huts. Yeah. 40 miles from the nearest town of Hanksville.
But they're not doing it long enough because they have 2-week durations and then they...
Well, no, I think...
Is it longer?
I think they go 6 weeks or something along those lines. But
that's got to be just a trip to Mars.
They check... Right, no kidding. Well, no, supposedly it's supposed to be, 3 years or something along those lines? That's what what is the project? The Real World Road Rules on Mars?
Oh, really?
What the hell is it? It's not really what it is, but it's...
I remember what you were talking about.
Mars One.
Yeah.
The Mars One project. Essentially, people are just sending in their own submission tapes the same way that you submit to Real World and Road Rules and that kind of crap.
The application.
Right. But what can you learn from somebody's videotape? There's so many pretentious people that are just. I mean,
so you send it to them for them to interview you for a trip to Mars.
Yeah, a permanent trip. Get this, it's one way, man. That's the thing. And there's people just lining up to go one way to Mars.
If I was towards the later part of my life, I think I would line up, but I got a kid to raise. But I would love to go to Mars. If I was 70, dude, I'd fucking go. Like, you know what? I got maybe a year to 10 years left. Fucking might as well go on my one last adventure.
Body
who cares?
To Mars?
Probably not.
They'll just shuffle you out into space.
They'll be like, you can come.
You'll remain a landmark along the way, dude. Like later trips to Mars will be like, oh, and there's 70-year-old.
You're putting food storage. That's where you're putting the freezer for food storage,
dude. And then they'll end up with brain diseases and turn into cannibals. It'll turn into some crazy 28 days later scene in Mars or in space.
There's speculation that Mars is like just a straight up predator planet. Like everything just eats everything there.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy ideas.
So when you say predator planet, is that where we can't see anything because they're all like that holographic see-through shit? Or
no, I mean like predator, like as in like a wild cat hunts deer. You know, like predators. So
there's actually life that we're not photographing, or the life that they're photographing.
I'm not going that far out there on the limb, but
I'm just trying to understand.
There's stories.
I haven't heard this, so I want to know a little more.
Yeah, that's all I've heard is people who believe that it's a predator planet and that they've done some sort of homework. I guess
I don't know. Too.
There's a good possibility that that's where the idea came from. Look at Star Wars. This motherfucker's got to be working with the government. They're like, dude, we've been out there. There's a galactic federation of fucking whatevers, and they police the galaxy. And then this guy's like, hey, they're like, make a movie, acclimate the people to this idea. Just who cares?
Just get used to it.
Yeah, and somebody went over and told George Lucas. Is that who it was?
Yep.
Yeah, they told him, hey, this is what's really going on. That didn't come out of his fucking head. Bullshit.
Yeah, I know. He seems to be, I don't know. He just doesn't seem capable of actually coming up with that many lines that connect, so to speak.
If it was Stephen King, sure. That dude's writing fucking imagination. It's just spilling his brain out on paper all day long. So I could buy that. But I don't know about
George Lucas is...
I gotta know who his connects are. Who's this motherfucker hanging out with? Who did he hang out with before he was doing Star Wars? That's the question.
That's a good question. Let's find out.
We should. Google this bitch.
Another thing that they mentioned about this article, though, is that they actually have a slow internet connection, which is to simulate the connection that they already have on Mars. So basically, they've got dial-up, okay? So they're rocking dial-up. I wonder if they still have those paper printers that the old, the spoiled,
just spitting out a piece of paper.
The ones on the reels, the paper reels, the ones you just buy a big ream and just...
If they do, they just overthought the shit out of that. I mean, the slow connection, I guess, makes sense.
But the information that they include is, like we mentioned, the psychological status of these people. So that's where they can gain some value from this. But they went on to say that visitors are also allowed sometimes. And I'm just wondering, what the hell kind of visitor are you going to have out at your Mars Desert Research Station? Is this like one of the dudes got sick and tired of these dry-ass Mars rations that taste like baby food dust? And they're like, all right, I'm calling the nearest Pizza Hut. And then this guy's supposed to come out because the article states that they have visitors are allowed, although they're required to travel to the research station on a buggy with a top speed of 5 miles an hour down an unmarked path filled with rocks. So they've got to go down a pebble driveway that probably takes them 45 minutes with 5 mile an hour cart. You can walk faster than that, but you're required to go on this buggy.
But the oxygen tether only allows you like 20. No,
that's right. We're going to extend this through, we've got airlocks and then the oxygen tether that you have to actually sync up with the fishbowl on your head. And
there you go.
You get on your Power Wheels Jeep and you ride all the way up the pebble path.
6 miles to the pizza guy.
Well, for anybody that actually wants to deliver a pizza, it just surprises these people. Bring them a pizza. They're located at 2200 Cowdung Road here in Hanksville, Utah. So surprise them with a gift pizza. That'd be pretty funny.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I got 5 on it.
I'll spot you. Yeah, send us the receipt if you actually do end up taking a pizza out at the Mars One station. We'll see what we can do to help reimburse. I'm not making any promises, though. So share some pizza with these assholes on Mars.
Bam.
So we're going to celebrate the inauguration, if you will, of Odd Reality Radio, and we're going to do so in style with this 100-year-old bottle of beer. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this 100-year-old bottle of beer? Where the hell did they find this thing?
In a church, in fact.
A church. Okay, so what the hell? Did some asshole just leave a beer under the pew and somebody thought to not dust there for 100 years?
I guess not, man. It was found in the sand at St. Piran's Oratory. Piranhas?
Piranha. Yeah, I like Piranha. That sounds pretty badass.
Sounds
and
like
sharp.
a churchy type name.
Oh, for sure.
Piranha on your wallet. One of the oldest places of Christian worship. It was unearthed at an archaeological excavation of the oratory's ruins.
These ruins that they're digging up, this beer that these archaeologists end up digging up, they find it basically in the wall of this thing, in the sand, in between one of these protective barriers that they built in the early 1900s. They basically cracked away these protective walls and found this beer in immaculate condition, it says.
That's how they described it, yeah.
Now,
it even had a freaking swastika on
that's what I was going to ask about. There was something strange about
it. Even had
art.
A fucking swastika logo on the cap.
Okay, now, this is 1910, though. The whole Nazi regime wasn't until the 30s, right? It didn't begin gaining steam until
that's true,
the 30s. So why in the hell is there a swastika on a beer bottle in a church in 1910?
It's interesting that controversial symbol actually was tied to had a lot of different meaning. You know, like it resembled peace and...
Wasn't it originally Hindu? I've actually heard a couple of people mention that. I talked to somebody last night, and they actually mentioned something along the lines of, it was a Himbu?
Himbu people.
Himbu? What the hell is a Himbu? It sounds like some sort of Dr. Seuss character.
We'll get that.
Himbus. But the Hindus used it as a symbol of peace originally.
They actually would draw it on their doorways, I guess, as like a symbol of
protection or something?
I think it was more like a welcoming thing.
Oh, really?
I think it was like only during like festivals or something like that. I was reading about it a while back. But
so this is a symbol of peace, essentially. A symbol of peace and welcoming and camaraderie, essentially, from what I can gain, at least in its origins.
Yeah, in the origins of it until it was...
Now, another thing that I noticed is,
much ruined.
And I could be completely wrong, feel free to correct us, that's kind of the point of this thing, is we're here to learn as much as the listeners are. But I've seen and noticed that with the Nazis, they basically use it in the 2 or the Z positioning. Now, I've seen a lot of the more positive versions of the symbol are in an S shape, as far as
more curvy.
Right, the shape itself is more... And not only curvy, but I'm talking like the actual orientation, right?
Oh. Okay.
It starts left and zigs to the right for the Nazi or the Z shape, and then for the more positive or welcoming, it's the S shape or the opposite of that, the mirror image of the Z shape. And I don't know, I've actually seen some positive versions of the symbol in the Z shape too, so it could just be the symbol is...
So it's mirrored, basically.
Exactly, yeah.
But for the most part, the Nazis used it in the one way, and
the Hindus or the Himbus, like we said, they used
I
it
love
in the
those
positive.
people, man. You know,
they're so nice.
They're the greatest.
They make good beer too.
They're fucking Himbu. Himbu beer.
Himbu beer.
Find it. Send us some.
Please do. For the inauguration. Celebrate with us with Himbu beer. You know, we should actually brew some beer and let's call it Himbu.
We just made it.
We did. So now that we've caught ourselves a little buzz, I say we take a trip to Centralia, which, and I'd like to clarify, the reason I picked Centralia to be the first show, and I intended on doing this show by myself, which the first I've done this, I've already recorded this show twice and scrapped them because I sound like a fucking robot when I'm alone. Because to tell you the truth, sitting behind a microphone is extremely intimidating.
Yeah.
It's like watching somebody play drums on TV and you go, fuck, I can do that. And you sit behind a drum kit and your brain goes, no, you can't.
You got all these judgmental fuckers out there that are quick to send an email. Fuck you. Anyway.
Please send an email to oddrealityradio@gmail.com. Feel free to add in the subject line Joshua if you want to speak to Josh directly, or Ty if you want to hit me up. Now, feel free to be respectful. We're here to learn, like I said, along the way. Don't be a douche about it. There's enough of those out there as it is. So we're here to learn along the way. We're here to teach as many people are willing to open their minds and learn something with us. But Centralia is the first story because I was a huge fan of the video game early on. And I've always kind of been a fan of strange and unexplained things. So why don't we give a little bit of history on why we're interested in supernatural, I guess. You know, for me, at least, I started because when I was younger, I heard a guy I talked to last night. We were out at a ghost hunt here local, and I ended up running into a guy that runs a thing down in southern Utah, and he mentioned something about how he got into it, and he referenced it as, you know, kind of Scooby-Doo hunting, essentially. Like back in the day, it wasn't really an organized thing trying to catch evidence or anything. It was more just trying to get a thrill or go check out a spooky place. But for me, you know, that's kind of how I started. I used to do that stuff in high school. I was curious.
Grave.
Yeah, exactly.
That,
I've actually had an incident at Emo's grave. That was one that I was going to reference. We went up to the gravesite, my cousin and I, and we've actually had a couple of weird things happen there. We had a lady at 4:00 in the morning. We were up there. She's walking around in a wedding dress. We turn a corner and she's gone down one aisleway. She was under one of the illuminated street lamps, and then we turned the corner and she was gone. And I just assumed she was quick or had somebody that was just on the outside of the fence that picked her up or whatever. But again, who in the hell wears a wedding dress at 4:00 in the morning to the cemetery? And then
dead people.
Yeah, comforting, right? But we ended up going up to Emo's grave, and one of the things that they mention with Emo's grave here, for those of you that aren't Utah local, is that Emo is the story of it is he was the first devil worshiper here in Utah, and he was burned at the stake in the 1800s. And the real story is, after looking into it, is Emo was actually a guy by the name of Jacob Moritz, who was a local entrepreneur who started the Salt Lake Beer Brewing Company, and he actually died in Germany. He was on a business trip to Germany to enhance the business, the beer business, of course, and he died with some sort of stomach illness. And his family put his remains in an urn of some sort in this Utah cemetery as a memorial for them that lived here in Utah. And, you know, people went and elaborated on the story. And I basically, are you familiar with the term a tulpa?
No.
A thought form, essentially something that you can create with your own mind.
Tulpa.
Yeah.
Not a familiar word to me, though.
Well, that's what I've learned as far as the vocabulary, the term for it is. I've heard, you know, other versions of it, but a tulpa is the thing that I continue to hear most often associated with that thought form. But I think that what Emo's grave might end up being is the expectations of all these stories, of this story, of this rendition, this rumor, this urban legend that's grown, and people go and they assume that it's a reality and they anticipate it. You know, they mentally build this moment because they want it so bad And, you know, I'm about to sell myself out here, but no, I basically, before I learned about the truth, I was one of those believers that you circle the grave and...
Sort of law of attraction type thing.
Right. And so we circled the grave, said his name, Emo, the 10 times or 13 times or whatever, and I walked up, closer to the grave and was thinking, oh, nothing's happening. And it was me and my cousin. And I ended up walking up next to the grave, looking in, and right as I leaned in to look in, there was a light illuminated from within this pitch black tomb or whatever, and this little crypt. And I tell you what, we left pretty damn quick because I couldn't explain it, and there was no cars in the area for it to be a light reflecting off of something.
It just lit up in that little area.
Inside,
because I know what you're talking about. That little cutout.
That urn was knocked over. Vandals had, knocked it over. And inside that box, it lit up and moved. I mean, it showed up, manifested, and then moved. And again, I think that I could have generated that with my own energy, my own anticipation of that.
Who knows? Yeah, could be. And not only that, but you were there with who? How many others?
Just one.
Just one. So I mean, you have that. Possibly, if you're thinking along those lines, then you would have his energy as well.
Exactly. We both kind of, we'd heard the stories.
But who knows what...
And again, I've heard that with poltergeist activity, that's most commonly associated with teenagers and female teenagers at that, because of the amount of energy levels that they can produce and the hormones and the imbalances. And dude, it's not even a joke. I mean, it's serious. It's serious, but it also is kind of strange because it makes so much sense being a man. I mean, hell, I didn't understand. I grew up with three sisters. Even just,
teenage boys, teenage girls, it's just your imagination runs a little bit more wild too, I think.
Absolutely.
You haven't been beat down by the world, I guess.
True. Maybe not yet, but junior high's around the corner and it's on its way. High school's right behind it. So, what about you? As far as what interests you? Like, what got you into this stuff? Was there any one thing, or was it like you just kind of always had? Because, like with me, I mean, aside from those Scooby-Doo investigations, I was always interested in Ghostbusters and Ninja Turtles and anything that was out of the norm. I loved. So,
I don't know. Mostly, it was just. Curiosity. It was kind of like a switch. Just one day, just started
asking the right questions.
Yeah, asking the right questions. It's a good way to put it. But there was limited information, really. I mean, there was no Facebook. There wasn't anything like that one. And YouTube, obviously. I mean, not fucking ancient, but
right.
So mostly, all it was a couple of web pages I'd find, and it was. Alien curiosity really is what it all started as.
And I've got a fascination with it all. I'm a huge fan of crypto stories. I'm a big fan of the UFO stories. I've just never had anything happen. That's the thing.
Well, that's the thing. It's not... It was more of just a curiosity of what people had, pictures I was looking at. Oh, there's, all these UFO pictures or whatever, trying to figure out real ones or not, and then find the web page and you start asking, okay, if they did exist and if Roswell happened, and if that's true, the government's covering it up. So then it led from that to, did we go to the moon? Because it's space-related stuff, and it's, the technology, and it just leads into, just spider-webbed into a fucking nightmare of...
Some people
skeptical
reference it as a rabbit hole, right?
Yeah, it's a rabbit hole, but
it's more like a series of tunnels, and not just one deep hole, right?
Yeah, it is, and it's what it is. It's a massive spiderweb of just different ways and different branches, and somehow they seem to be all connected.
That's how I feel.
And the more you try to figure it out, the more you just drive yourself crazy, and you feel like you're going to be in that one movie writing all this shit on the fucking garage walls. With papers hanging.
Yeah, you'll be that guy that looks disoriented and unbathed.
And so you just come to a point where you're like,
you know what? That's probably going to be season 3 of this show. It's just us scrawling with I dare to say feces on the wall or something, you know, that's all we have left.
Glyphs.
Yeah, some sort of fucked up alien connection with our...
But that's what it started. I was innocent, like, are we alone? And then it turned into the government hates us and wants to kill us all, and they're just evil people running the planet. To sum it all up. I mean, that's not 100%. Obviously, there's a bunch of great people in government, and there's a bunch of fucking evil cunts in government. So, I mean, but there's a yin yang. You know, you have evil fucking cunty people, and you have wonderful, awesome human beings. The ones that are just shitty human beings are the ones that just seem to dominate in ways because they lack morality or something. So they can dominate financially, they can take out competitors with ruthlessness, and that's how they just create these massive enterprises with no remorse for whatever was in their way or whatever will be in their way. It's just a nonstop just train of fucking destruction, these motherfuckers.
And I definitely agree with you. I think that it's a pretty scary place to be. You know, it's a pretty scary time to be in. But then again, what time really isn't? If you look back before all of those mega powers were the mega powers that they are, there was mega powers before then. And mega powers before them. And the thing is like, before now, was it, you know, we could have been subjected to human sacrifice or, you know, mass extinction by, you know, natural disaster, which is all of this shit is still possible.
Oh, definitely.
Don't get me wrong, but I just say, I mean, like, I'm trying to reference that, like, I'm saying that, yes, we live in a pretty gnarly time, but what time really wasn't? I mean, it is gnarly to exist. I mean, the possibilities of it all are what's really driving me and this show right here. And, you know, for us, the tagline, I think, for the show would be investigating life through the lens of possibility. Because that's kind of what we have taken this for, and that's how I see life. So let's get into Centralia then, the real Silent Hill. It's located in Pennsylvania, in southern Columbia County, actually. And this once growing town of nearly 3,000 residents, guess how many people are there now?
I don't have a clue.
There's less than 10. A town dries up, there's less than 10 people. Now, I want to know, I've got a new curiosity. What is the smallest town in America? What is that? I mean, obviously, there's probably a town with a population of 1 somewhere.
Can you call it a town?
But I don't know. That's a good question. So now I want to know, what the hell is the smallest?
Unless this guy has his own grocery
town
store, he has his own gas station, he has his own police station, and he fucking runs them all.
That would be a TV show worth watching. Or would it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a pilot.
Well, let's make it after the show.
Right.
Centralia is the real Silent Hill, according to the new movie Silent Hill. I was actually looking into it, and it's not... The video game isn't actually based on the town, but the movie, they referenced that there was a mine fire, if you've seen it. There was actually a mine fire in the movie version of Silent Hill. the coal mining in Centralia actually began in 1856 and continued until about the 1960s, when most of those mining companies shut down, and not only because of the mine fires which happened in the 1960s, but basically there wasn't much left to mine. So these towns were this population was drying up even before then, and apparently most of the mines shut down in like the 1960s. But some people have reported that it's still being strip mined and open pit mined in the area, which, if you ask me, that's not the place I want to be mining if there's a fire underneath within the coal mines. This town, when it did shut down, there was over 2,700 people at its thriving point, and it was cut to about a third of that by the time that main fire began. And the story of that main fire is a pretty interesting one. On May 27th, 1962, 5 members of a volunteer fire crew were hired to set a local landfill on fire, allow it to burn for a set amount of time, and then extinguish this fire and move on. But these fires were never fully extinguished, and there's a fire that still burns underneath the town of Centralia. That's the main version of the story.
I wonder whose mine was it? Is what I want to know.
That's a good question. That's something that we'll have to look into.
Because if you look at whose mine was it, and who stood to gain from maybe possibly setting on fire, maybe it's just purely an accident. I'm just curious.
That's a wonderful question. I never even thought about going along those lines. Excuse me. Based on another theory that I was able to locate, claiming that the fire started in 1932 along a different stretch of mines a little bit further down the row. That theory is the Bast theory. And the Bast theory states that in 1932 there was an explosion and a fire that was never able to be extinguished, which is obviously, it's pretty damn similar to the same fire story as this landfill incident. But the interesting thing about this Bast theory is that I found this weird letter on one of the Pennsylvania mine fire disaster web pages, and the letter goes like this. My name is Raymond J. Milius. I was born in Girardville, January 7th, 1924. Many a Saturday, my father, my brother, and I picked coal from the coal refuge bank at the foot of the sloop located across the creek from the drift of the blast colliery. About 1932, the mine caught fire. Rumors were that the cause of the fire was a miner smoking who left his cigarette butt lit. To extinguish the fire, it was to be flooded, and then the drift was blasted shut. The year 1943. I visited Girardville with three of my friends who were to be inducted into the Army. Due to the energy shortage, the blast drift was opened and the water was drained. The mine was still burning. The drift was closed, and then the mine was re-flooded. Now take us to 1960. My wife and I, on our honeymoon, drove to Shamokin, Pennsylvania, on the north side of the highway from Mount Carmel to Shamokin. Driving that night, the westward red glow on the mountain was very visible from the burning coal vein. And I looked up how far Shamokin was in relation to Centralia and found that it's only about a 23-minute drive from Centralia. So that lends some credence to this mine fire. I mean, it's a 20-minute drive. Who's to say that mountain didn't start on fire in the 30s and stretch over? And essentially, they considered this fire because apparently they've done this landfill fire for quite some time, but they considered this an opportunity to blame that main incident on this. And again, I like your theory with the possibility of it being something within the owners of the actual mining companies.
It really just, all I can really see is that the thing caught on fire, people were forced out due to the lack of work or
the fear
obviously
of burning.
Yeah, there's a fire underneath your house, or I don't know how close they were to homes or whatever, but it could have been just pure accident, but I always like to see who stood to gain anything, and if you ever see like names like Rothschild, Rockefeller, fucking, anything like that, and you're like, okay, then it's really fishy.
Yeah.
But
and even then, there's subsidiaries to those families that are, basically puppets or whatever along those lines to those people, to the main families. I mean, there's got to be, and the list goes on and on with those people.
But I'm just trying to figure, there's 3,000 people. They just had to leave. They had to go somewhere. I mean, where's the story?
They actually evacuated the nearby town of Burnsville as well. And I don't know if they included that in that. Burnsville.
This is a fucking made up story. The whole place is on fire, and then it just happens to be underneath the town of Burnsville. It's where they have their dumb base, deep underground military base. So it's like, this is like perfect, strategically perfect spot. We just get these fucking people out of here. Light the underground on fire. Fuck it. There's a coal mine under there. It'll clear the way, make it easier to clear it out.
Well, dude, there's people that are claiming the anthracite coal is what they're after.
No, dude, they just wanted to build a base, dude, so they fucking keep the aliens down there.
Yeah, it's just right that temperature is what they need.
That's right. It's perfect. It's ideal alien conditions.
And then they'll start the Mars One underground research station there.
And then
they'll have
aliens.
People deliver their fucking pizzas and take 4 hours on their,
Instead of 2, they should stay in Utah. Keep pizza close, man.
Come on, we got a good pizza out here. Don't underestimate our Utah pizza.
Some good stuff. Where are we at now?
We're trying to figure out who the fuck.
Well, I don't think we're going to figure it out on the podcast. I think you're going to be doing some digging, son.
Controversially, an upper class was missing throughout the anthracite region, and agents of the coal companies were the most influential members of the weak local middle class. Therefore, coal mining communities like Centralia lacked a tradition of collective decision-making in their own interests, a fact that continues to inhibit their responses to crises.
So who's causing the crises? Who's stirring up the pot, knowing that they can't make a decent decision amongst themselves?
I don't know. They're just leaving these people to sound like they're fucking idiots, and I don't think that these people are idiots. That's what's strange. Anthracite miners struck for the first time in 1842. First organized miners' union appeared in the Schuylkill County in 1848. The Centralia buyout, here we go. The U.S. Congress appropriated. No, that's just the fucking money that they wanted to buy out the town.
See, but that's why they buy out the town. Why do they care? Just to help them out? That's not like us.
Well, the U.S. Congress I know. Yeah,
we got a bunch of people that could use some money just to move to a better spot.
Right.
But government don't just give out money for you to get to a better spot.
Well,
they usually just only take spots that they want. Like, what's it called?
Eminent domain?
Yeah.
They did that.
I was going to say dominant domain, but...
Well, it's a dominant thing that they do. It's a really dominating action.
So, sometimes they buy them out. Sometimes they force them out. It's not uncommon.
I'm just wondering who it was that owned it to begin with. Because all the information I have on ownership went from the actual town being owned by the local government and the U.S. Congress wanting to come in and get everybody out. They seem to be interested in other things. And the fact that you've got 8 people with spines or 7 people with spines that are willing to stay in the town and say, we're not going anywhere.
When was this?
The buyout?
No, the original fire. What date was the original fire?
It was May 27th, 1962.
62. Huh. Just makes me wonder. My mind's always gone, but it's like, thinking about resources and keeping them where they are and, like oil and coal and all those precious resources that we always have to get overseas.
Yeah.
They were just making too much of it.
That's a good possibility.
I have no idea.
Well, the lack of information on the history of the mining companies that were associated with it seems to be an interesting fact in itself. And if anybody out there can find more information than we've been able to locate, then please share it. This is something that, like I said, I was interested in this with the idea that I was going to do this show alone and kind of tie in some of my history of playing the video game and associating the Silent Hill video game and the series or the movies with this town. But the thing is there's all sorts of weird shit and conspiracy within this. Like you said, that spider web just happens. It happens here. It happens there. It happens, as Dr. Seuss puts it, everywhere.
And sometimes it's just pointless to even look this stuff up.
Sometimes, but the thing is if we look up the right thing, who's to say that we don't learn something about ourselves along the way that we didn't know, or learn something along the way that, may answer a question that we've been curious about.
Or if you just like digging stuff up, find the answer.
See, and I'm into old school history, and I want to make a bucket list of places to visit along the way, and this is one of those places I'd love to go check out myself, just because, again, it's a landscape that's not familiar to me. It's something that's kind of creepy, eerie, has an ambience to it, and
I don't know. I'm just a truth buff.
Absolutely,
and I just dig some more. So if you find some, send them our way.
oddrealityradio@gmail.com. So, I think as far as the first show goes, this has been a little haphazard, but if it wasn't, it wouldn't be natural. I think if it was stiff and rigid, I would have done this by myself 4 months ago when I recorded it 3 times.
Oh, it'll get better.
Absolutely. And if anybody has any suggestions, feel free to send them in. You can follow us on Twitter at Odd Reality Radio. You can look us up on the internet. I do have a website, but the URL's a pain in the ass. It's oddrealityradio.wix.com/home. So put that in your pipe and smoke it, or actually enter it into your URL bar and go there. There's a forum, there's some photos, there's a little bit more information on us, and as I find more out about my co-host, I'll put some information about him up as well. So thanks again for tuning in. I am Ty West.
Joshua Ray.
Tune in next time for Odd Reality Radio, and until then, continue to investigate life through the lens of possibility.